Welcome to Horror Hags.
We really need to hire somebody for that.
Or just pay for some music.
Yeah, we should.
Right.
Gotta get them licenses.
Do we know what those sounds are supposed to be?
I don't know. Generic lightning.jpg.
Yeah, mine was lightning.
I don't know.
Mine was lightning. Okay.
Good morning and hello, everybody.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon.
Wherever you're from, hello. Today, we are going to cover something different. We're going to cover a series.
Yes, we are.
This is the REC series, R-E-C.
You know, like rec when you press record on your video camera? That's what it is.
On the video phone. No.
There's a video phone.
Beyonce.
Oh. Okay.
No, yeah, this is the REC series. This is a series of 4 films.
Yes, from Spain.
From Spain. It is in Spanish. Disclaimer. It is in Spanish.
With subtitles.
With subtitles, if you can find them. And overall, this general series is a infected / zombie, I guess, film.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like infected people running around, crazy, ready to kill humans at a moment's notice, like absolutely disgusting and vile creatures.
You know, like all the movies we cover.
Like all the movies. And me in the morning, honestly. But let's go ahead and start with number 1.
Yeah, so this was released in 2007. It does belong in the found footage genre, which gets a bad rap.
I love found footage.
Yeah, not everybody does, but and let me tell you what happened when this came out in 2007. The found footage genre was already starting to fade away.
Right.
People were tired of it because it did wear out its welcome.
It did.
I have to say. So I remember. Trip down memory lane. I haven't done that in a while. I remember when this movie came out, I had read about it. It wasn't here in the United States yet. It came out in Spain. And I did read that it was found footage. And I was just like, okay, whatever. I don't need to see another found footage movie. But then it became a sensation in Spain.
I was going to say it got like really critically acclaimed horror. And like people were talking about it everywhere.
Yeah. And if as the best of my knowledge, it was a big hit in Spain. So then the hype started coming out, and we started reading about it here in the States, and then it finally made its way here, I think in like very limited release.
Okay.
And when I saw it, I was like, oh, I get it.
It was awesome.
It's intense.
I enjoyed the first and second ones a lot more than I think the later ones.
Yeah, there's 4 total.
There's 4 of these total, right?
Right.
So this is a special episode. We're going to cover 4 movies.
Yes.
Because we're going to do the whole series.
Right.
So the first one really sets the tone, I think, of everything, and it really just jumps right into the action.
Yeah, and the premise is this crew of a television show is following firefighters.
Right.
So it's kind of like a day in the life of a firefighter.
Right. She's all excited.
Yeah. So it's a camera crew.
Yeah.
She's this woman is the host of the show, and so they're following these.
Right. So they go on this firefighters are going out. They got this call. We got to investigate this house because there was a call, and they're like, oh my God,
it's
come
like
on,
an
come on, come
apartment
on.
building. Yeah.
Right. And so it's like the firefighter crew, this television reporters, and we're in the lens of like the cameraman this whole time.
Right.
So when they get to this house, they see this decrepit old woman, like kind of covered in blood, semi-naked, just like standing there, creepy. I mean, it's very eerie.
creepy.
It's eerie, the whole time, and you're just like, oh my God. And they don't give any context, right? There's no context to this movie at all. So you're just given this image, and it's like really horrifying.
Yeah. And what it does, now that you say that and I realize it, what it does, it makes you feel like you're there with them.
Yes.
Right? Because it's very disorientating, right? Like you are plunged into the action and you don't really know what's going on.
But neither do
much
they.
like the characters. Right.
Neither do they.
Right.
That's the important part. Like they have no idea what's happening, no real recollection of what's actually, transpiring or the events that's happening around them. They're just kind of here for the moment and living their best lives.
Well, I mean, that's not entirely true, because when the firemen come in to the building, they're in a panic.
Right.
Because there's this woman covered in blood kind of running around the building, terrorizing them, and they don't know why is she doing this.
Well, she bites that one guy almost immediately, right. And it takes like 3 or 4 of them to get her off him, and they're like, what is this crazy woman doing?
That was a great scene.
Yeah.
That's when they're in her apartment. right?
Yes.
And they like there's a mattress. Or
She
something?
there's a mattress, but she takes a big chunk out of his neck and
Yeah.
rips it off, and it looks like stringy meat
Yeah.
coming from his neck. It's like
So
really
at this point, we're
graphic.
like, wait, is this like a zombie movie? Because we're not quite sure yet.
They don't say nothing on the packaging of this movie, nothing in the summary of this movie. It's really just like an adventure ride for you.
Right.
And the thing is, with the first movie, the action doesn't stop. Like, not for one moment do you get any sort of rest. There's always action.
No.
There's always things that, like, once you think it's over, there's like another thing happening to you. I just knocked over something.
Things are knocking things down. Are you trying to ruin my apartment?
I just get excited. This movie was so good.
And it's funny because you mentioned like there's no rest, right?
Right.
For the viewer,
Right.
right? And I don't know why I did this, but I happened to watch this on a Sunday night recently, getting ready to review it. And it was, I don't know, I guess I tend to go to bed and watch a movie before I go to bed,
Right.
like before I go to sleep.
Yeah.
So I watched this movie. It's over at I go to sleep early, so it's over at around 11:30, and I was like so wound up that I couldn't sleep.
Well, that's the thing. When I watched the first one, I immediately had to watch the second one.
Yeah,
Because
I couldn't.
I was just like, oh my God, that was amazing.
Right.
One thing that I wanted to say about this, a cool feature of this movie was during, I think, middle of the way, there was a rewind section. So it was like almost like someone was rewatching these.
Yeah.
And you were like, watching someone else watch this because a scene happened and then I wasn't expecting it and it rewind itself.
Right.
Play it. And I'm like, oh, like someone is watching this.
Well, that's because something happened that was caught on camera, right? Found footage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it might have been the host, the woman,
Yeah.
said, can you show us what happened? I think that it happened so fast that they missed it. So
Right.
they were able to rewind
Yeah.
the camera, right? And watch it again.
Mhm.
So the viewer gets to see all this as well because it's from the point of view of the camera, really, the whole movie. And look, with these found footage movies, since I had seen, this is like the third time I've seen it, I was like paying attention. I'm like, well, in reality, would I have put down the camera at some point and stopped recording? Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm running for my life, right?
Right.
That doesn't happen, but it's because we, the viewer, need to see what's going on.
I don't know. I went to college with some of these artsy film people, and they won't put the camera down for nothing.
Honey, if a zombie was chasing you down the hallway, I think you would put down the camera.
No problem.
I would put down the camera.
I would.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the camera's being held the whole time, which I think is cool. What was your favorite zombie of the first one? Because I have a favorite zombie of the first
Oh,
one.
I don't think I have a favorite zombie.
Mine was the little girl. She was nasty.
So one of my notes says not even the children are spared. So there's children zombies, and there's like some of these children die horrible deaths.
Yes.
Which I think is
And cause horrible deaths.
I know. I think it's kind of funny.
It's hilarious.
I know.
think the scream is. I laughed, but I was terrified. I was like,
Well, the first kid to turn,
Mhm.
right? That was an homage to Night of the Living Dead. I don't know if you caught that.
no.
So there's a famous scene in Night of the Living Dead at the end where the mother is in the basement taking care of her little girl, and the girl turns. But the mother doesn't know this, and the mother's still like taking care of her, and oh baby, what's wrong? Do you need anything? Blah blah blah. And all of a sudden, the little girl comes up, and she's a zombie now, and like kills the mother. Which, when you see that for the first time, it's kind of like, oh my God.
Killed her mom.
Yeah. And in this movie, something similar happens, right?
Yeah,
Where
she's
the little
like
kid
holding her, and
Yeah,
like
she
everyone's
goes
like,
for the
kinda looking at
mother.
her. And then she just screams out of nowhere, and she throws her kid.
What I kept thinking is like, how did they get this kid to do this? Because that was this kid was running and
Screaming, kicking. Like,
right,
yes.
and you could see rage on her face, and you can she bites people. I'm like, oh my God.
Something that I really appreciated about the first two movies is they kept a consistency level there, right? Like there was a girl who was chained and like on the first floor of the building after the initial outbreak.
Yeah.
Remember? And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
she turned into a zombie, and then like as they were still like transpiring, she was still there trying to like kill them later on as
Right.
a zombie. Like they kept some things the same between the films. Rooms that were the same, and we'll talk about rooms later on.
Between 1 and 2.
Between 1 and 2.
Yeah. Because it kind of 2 picks up
Exactly.
immediately after
The first one.
the first one.
Yeah.
Right.
Immediately, and just like picks the camera up, like keeps going. Like it's really, really good.
Actually, going back to my comment about like who the hell would sorry, that was my phone ringing, people. who the hell would hold onto a camera for so long and not let it go, considering the circumstances? And I wrote down here in my notes, that's much more relevant today than it was back in 2007. Because I get it today. Like, if you have a phone in your hand, people, I think, are more apt to
keep going.
Right.
Because it's all on their smartphone now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's
all
not
on
a
your
big
iPhone
handheld camera.
22. Right. It's
Right.
just you point and click, and there it is.
Oh, the differences between 2007 and today.
Ooh,
just 13
that's
years
a whole
later.
nother podcast.
I know. And you have to also realize that this movie came out way before Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Right? Because throughout the whole movie, we're kind of led to believe that there are zombies. Right? And this was way before Walking Dead. So it was kind of watching it back then, as somebody who's kind of cynical, me, and jaded, me, and not really looking for another found footage movie, me. It was like a breath of fresh air. I'm like, it's intense, it's relentless, it has these zombies, which again, there wasn't a bunch of zombie movies like there are today. So it was all kind of like a breath of fresh air. Yeah. I was so excited when I saw that movie.
well, the thing is I think that's why it hit so hard, because it was the nonstop action. Right. It kept you engaged. There was never a dull moment. There was never like pointless conversations where you're like, why am I listening to this? Like the whole time you were either rooting for someone to live or scared out of your mind that something was going to kill them.
It's actually scary.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It's a scary film. There's a lot of actions. It's loud.
It's
the
very
film
creepy.
Is loud.
Yep. The effects, the sound effects.
Sound effects are really loud.
Yep.
I think another one of my favorite zombies is, I call her the final boss zombie of the first two. During the ending scene of the first one, she like kills our hostess lady and drags her off. It's that creepy looking one, right?
Yeah, that's what I wrote down here. Last image is a doozy, and that's what it is. Like our heroine gets kind of like carted off. Yeah. To like the darkness, really.
Yeah.
So that zombie was kind of like the main, and we
get
into
zero.
it. Yes, we get into it in part 2. Like, and that part actually was played by a man.
I believe it.
Yeah.
The makeup was there.
I mean, it was so creepy. They had to get a really,
she had a hammer, right?
Really skinny actor.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this guy's like emaciated.
Right.
And they put some makeup on and made him look like a woman, and then he plays this part. But the thing with that scene is that it's in complete darkness, and what they do is the camera has like this night vision thing.
Yeah, it's like green and
Yeah, so you're watching the movie from that point of view. So it's all green, it's all very dark, and then this scary image, this super skinny
thing with
naked,
long hair, it's with
stringy,
a hammer.
Yes, comes out of nowhere and scares the hell out of you.
And it's like there's no context, right? There's no where this thing came from.
Right.
But she's just there in the room with it, and she just sees it for the first time, and it's all over from there for her.
Right.
I mean?
And for you cinephiles out there, this is a very interesting tidbit. Our host, whatever you want to call, the actress who plays that part. When I looked her up on IMDb, her name is Manuela Velasco. She was the little girl in a movie called The Law of Desire by one of my favorite filmmakers named Pedro Almodóvar. So, of course, when I saw that credit, I'm like, get the hell out of here. That was the little girl in The Law of Desire. For any of you, Zach, maybe you haven't seen The Law of Desire, see it immediately. It's not horror.
Is it English?
It's Almodóvar. No, it's in Spanish.
Subtitles again.
It has subtitles, but it's a great film. So I thought that was like a nice little trivia.
And that's a note too, people. Don't let me misconstrue you. There are many great foreign films out there that are not in English, that are in subtitles, that you should definitely take the time to go watch. We cover a lot of them on our channel.
Like Rec.
And, I mean, Rec is one of them. Suspiria is another one of them. I watched it in Italian.
Right.
I mean,
but you can get that in English.
You can get that in English if you want to.
Rec was not dubbed.
Right.
It was kept in Spanish, and it has the subtitles. And it actually has an American remake called Quarantine with Jennifer Carpenter.
And Quarantine is really, really good.
It is. And it's one of those rare remakes where it actually kind of matches the original.
Yeah. Quarantine 2 was a really good film, too.
I don't know if I saw it. I can't remember.
It's the same kind of concept, but they're in an airport. It's all it's bigger scaling, right? But we can cover that on another one.
Maybe we'll do Quarantine 2, and then something else.
Follow-up, yes.
Okay.
Let's talk about the second one a little
bit. Rec 2.
Rec 2. So some of my notes on here were the gruesome kills on number 2 of the zombies. That's the thing too. These things are hard to kill, right? Because our initial zombie that we see, I call them zombies. I really don't know what to classify them as.
Yeah, we can call them zombies.
I'm gonna call them zombies. The initial zombie we saw of the bloody woman, they killed her, and then when they came back up again,
She comes back.
She comes back. So these
You can't
things
kill them.
Have to like,
Right.
you know,
And yes, part 2 picks up right after part 1.
right after. Yep.
So, and the thing is like, it's like the National Guard or something gets a call and they go into the building, and then
Yes.
it's like right after
Yeah. So like
the
these-
firemen.
of the apartment building, right? These insurgent troops, right, with
Right.
armor and battle rifles,
and they're
like,
shooting to kill.
They're in there.
Yeah.
They're shooting. I mean,
And
some
they're
of them are
telling the
scared.
people, they're telling the people in the building, do not come close to the windows because we will shoot.
Yes.
And they do.
And they do.
Because they don't know, at this point, they know there's an infection or
Right.
something going on, and they don't know who's infected and who isn't.
Right.
So they're really shooting for their lives.
Right. I made a note
And
here.
to protect the people of Madrid. This takes
Ugh.
place in Madrid.
I made a note here that the little boy zombie of the first one
Uh-huh.
was in this room above the Jesus room, because there's a Jesus room right at the end of the first one, and that's where like there's a bunch of Jesus posters and Christianity stuff. And
Yeah,
blah, blah,
so
blah.
this is where the hostess goes up.
Right,
There's
at
no
the end of the
light. They
first.
turn on the night vision thing.
Right.
Yes.
And then there's like a hidden storage room
It's like an
above the
attic.
Jesus, an
Yeah,
attic area.
yeah.
And there's a little boy zombie in there.
Oh, yeah, right.
Remember that?
Yeah. Mhm.
So we kind of start off the film in that attic-y area. Boy's not there.
Yeah.
We have no idea where this boy zombie is.
He's hiding somewhere.
He's hiding.
Yeah.
And they eventually come across the final boss mother zombie thing again later on in this film too,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. But then what this film does is that it introduces the supernatural, right? So in the first one, we're sitting around going, infected, zombies, what the hell's going on? What is it? And while the movie doesn't really spell it out for you, we kind of get that it's like they're zombies, they're infected, right?
Right.
This one, all of a sudden, springs demonic possession on us.
That which is awesome.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's different.
And I have a thing for demonic possession movies. So when I'm watching Rec 2 back in the day before I saw it again to review it, I was like, oh, I'm going to like this one.
Well, the whole time, because her voice literally changes,
Yeah.
you know, and the whole time I'm watching, like, oh my god,
Right.
oh my god,
Yeah.
like she's possessed. It's not
Yeah.
just a zombie.
And it's funny because I tend to get scared with demonic possession movies. Some people think they're ridiculous. But what I was thinking, I was like, so the filmmakers were smart. So Spain is largely Catholic. And when you're Catholic, you know, you grow up believing in God, and they put the fear of the devil in you. So I'm like, okay, they made it really scary by introducing demonic possession to a largely Catholic
Audience.
country, right?
Yeah.
And me being Roman Catholic, I was scared. But then at the same time appreciated that I'm like, oh, okay, the devil's running around.
Look, I grew up a Christian, you know, so there's always this like, oh, the devil's bad, you know, kind of thing in the background. But we're also gay, so it's also like we're in hell already. So what is this? What is this actually?
Right.
Maybe he's my best friend. Who
Yeah.
knows? But I also have in my notes here weird blood ritual with fire. Do you remember that scene where they
I don't think so.
I can't remember the dialogue about this part, but they had the blood of one of the people, and they were doing something to it,
yes.
blessing it or something.
Yeah.
And it turns to fire, and he starts crying.
Right, it's the devil. The
And-
devil did it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like they really get, and it's in the Jesus room where they try this,
Right.
Because they're like, oh, this is the holiest room.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So now we're sitting there thinking, okay, so these people are possessed by a demon.
Right.
Or demons.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
But obviously the bite itself is infectious because people are bitten and turning and all over the place.
Right.
You know.
And like the first one, the pace is just relentless.
Right.
It just doesn't stop.
It doesn't.
I think like by the end of it, like the viewer's kind of stressed out.
Like I could mute this movie and play like some metal music to it, and I'm like,
And you're
this
still stressed
is the
out.
energy of this movie. Some metalcore and zombies. Like I'm about it.
I made a note on how much testosterone was in this one.
There's a lot of
There's
just like
a lot of
balls to the
guys,
wall.
right?
Yeah.
A lot of guys with big guns, shoot. I'm like, did they do this on purpose? Like, because
There's
I think,
a blow up doll in this one. Do you remember that scene?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy, but you know, it's like, and with the testosterone stuff that I'm talking about, it's like, you know, there's a SWAT team that goes in there thinking that they know what they're dealing with.
Right.
So I'm thinking, like, did they do this on purpose? All these men with their big guns saying, we're going to go save the day. And they don't.
And they do.
And they don't. Joke's on you, guys. You have no idea what you're dealing with, and you cannot save the day.
And I put in here the teenagers who follow the main protagonist down the sewer grate, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you following us? Like,
Right.
there's a bunch of zombies here. Go away.
Yeah.
Like, don't be here."
They thought they were going to have fun by
Right.
going into the building
Yes.
that was cordoned off, and then when they do get in there,
Yeah.
which is a little unbelievable to me how they did it, but whatever. Once they get in there, they're like screaming and crying for their lives.
Yep.
That was funny.
Poor kid got slapped. Remember that? I was
Yes. Yes.
One of my notable kills of zombies here is firecracker to the head. I was like, perfect.
Yeah. There's some intense stuff in there. And it's funny talking about like the pace. So what I wrote down here is the first half maintains the intensity of the first one. And then when we change to the three teenagers, it slows down a little bit, which I think is necessary because we need a breather.
Right.
Right. And then after they get in the house, then the pace picks up again. And it just doesn't stop till the end.
Well, what surprised me is our old camera lady came back.
Yes. The camera lady.
She came back.
Yes.
And I was like,
She sure
that's
did.
what I was like. I literally said out loud, holy shit, she's back.
Yep.
Right. And towards the end of this movie, something really gross fucking happens. The fucking worm. I can't get it out of my head.
yeah.
I cannot get it out of my head. The worm snake thing.
Yep.
Pukes it in her mouth.
Yep,
Nasty.
Oh, wait, hold on. So you...
I said that's someone's fetish. I literally was like, oh my god, the worm. That's definitely somebody's fetish.
There's a worm fetish?
I don't know. Probably.
We'll look it up.
One of you weirdos out there.
And you mentioned the scene with the flare, and I did put that down here.
Yeah.
There is a scene with a flare that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said the final boss is back with the hammer.
She's back.
Yes.
And it's funny because in the first one, you know, this one being like so full of like guys, there's guys everywhere. Like she balances it out, right? Because even though she has this hard-hitting like reporter type of vibe, she's also kind of there's softness about her.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. She's like,
She's also adorable.
and she just wants to figure shit out. She's ambitious.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the
Number
third.
three.
Number three.
Totally different.
So, all right. After Rec 1 and 2 got some money, I think, they went a different route with these films.
They did.
And I did not really like 3 or 4 as much.
Okay.
I didn't like 3 because they went to they got rid of the freebase camera, which I thought was the purpose of this whole movie series.
Right.
You know?
And a lot of fans were upset about that.
I was so upset.
I was not.
You were not?
I was not.
All right. Tell me why you weren't.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
So it starts off with found footage. Like it
It
starts
does.
off with the kid. So the part 3 takes it totally out of the building, and it goes to a wedding.
Right.
Right. So the setting is like a hall where they celebrate weddings. And at the beginning, it's a kid taping the wedding, and you see it from the point of view of the camera. But then they open it up, right? They ditch the camera thing. They open it up, and it becomes a more traditional movie, right? So what I appreciated about it is that it went in a different direction because sequels tend to just do the same thing over and over again. So I always appreciate when they go in a different direction. Famously, Halloween did that. So Halloween 1 and 2 were kind of the same, right? And then Halloween 3 went in a totally different direction, lost half its audience, right? It was no longer about Michael Myers. It was about these evil masks that kill kids. And I actually loved it. I'm like, oh my God, this is different, right? But the fans didn't agree.
Right.
Same
They're
thing
like,
with
where's
Rec.
Michael Myers?
Right.
Right.
Same thing with Rec.
Same thing with me. Where's my camera?
Right. And a lot of the fans were like turned off.
Well, I just think the first 2 were so well done free-based that we were just looking for more of that same energy of like, because not a lot of free-based camera movies can keep that energy up alive through the whole film. And these films are not long, people, right? Like these are not 2-hour
Oh,
films.
these are like 80 minutes.
80 minutes.
Maybe 77 minutes.
Right, like in and out, maybe hour and some change.
And that works in its favor,
and
I
it
think.
works for
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
It definitely works for them. So I was really, really upset that these films went from free-based camera to
A more cinematic.
experience because
traditional
I feel like it
approach.
took me out of the series. It
Yeah.
took me out of the series.
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching it. It was fine. It was a great movie. I thought
It's gory as all hell.
Yeah, who is the older man who like starts it all? He just has like the weirdest.
Oh,
like,
he's
face
the
expression.
uncle.
Uncle.
So the
sure.
link there is in the first 2, there was talk about a veterinarian. I can never say that word. And there was a dog that was infected. So it was kind of like mentioned in the first one and maybe in the second one, but there wasn't really much talk about it. They kind of leave it at that. And then the third one, we're introduced to this vet who is the uncle at the wedding who gets bit by a dog. So now he's infected.
Right.
And he starts everything.
Got it. Because, like, he's just at the wedding having a good old time, but he's just like, yeah, I'm sick or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
he's definitely not okay. And then he just bites, I think, his wife's neck, like,
Yeah.
off, just rips it right off.
Yep.
And people are just losing their minds at this point.
Right. And it's pandemonium because they're kind of all stuck in this hall where the wedding is taking place, and people are just turning and biting and eating.
I forgot to mention, he, like, falls off a thing first.
Oh, he does. There's
people are
there's
like,
two
people
levels.
stop. Yes.
Right.
There's 2 levels. He just falls.
Mhm.
And people will stop what they're doing and are like, are you okay, dude? You know, they all, like, approach him and are like, big circle around him, gets up, gives everyone this weird smile, this weird, like,
Yeah, he's
evil
now
smile.
infected / possessed.
And then just bites this woman's neck and tears off her flesh like a pizza, like a hot, steamy pizza.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting there laughing when all this is going on because I keep thinking about the bride, and she's probably like, "They've ruined my day." Get over yourself.
Lo siento.
So yeah, so now in this movie, there's cinematography. There's even a music score,
Yes.
which I appreciated.
I said the ultimate wedding crash. Oh, the night suits, the fucking night suits of armor.
That's
I was
another
like,
thing that's very different in this movie. So they introduce humor.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is very funny.
Yeah.
Rec 1 and 2, there's nothing funny
No,
about
no,
any of it, not for a second, right? But yeah, and then there was the imitation SpongeBob
Yes.
guy.
Yes.
His name is Sponge John. John the Sponge.
John the Sponge.
Because he said SpongeBob was in it was a copyright infraction. So he couldn't so the guy's there to kind of like entertain the kids,
Yeah.
and he's dressed up as SpongeBob, but he can't call himself SpongeBob. So he's John the Sponge. And I appreciated all that. The humor, ditching the found footage stuff.
Yeah.
I liked it.
It was like a different, I could see
But you
that.
weren't amused.
I was not amused because I wanted the same gory zombie action. I wanted more backstory because sometimes they like Paranormal Activity, right? We had 1 and 2,
Yeah.
and then 3 was a backstory.
Yeah.
You know, and I kind of wanted that. I wanted
Yeah.
like where
And
did
like a
she
deep
come
dive into like the
Yeah.
backstory.
I
Yeah.
wanted that
Yeah.
type of experience, but I can't always get what I want.
It
I saw so
delivers
many
a-
moments where the bride makes a connection with someone and then was met by sudden transverse. Like she would talk to someone, things would be good, music would be playing happy, and then just instant zombie kill. And I'm like, holy shit! And there was never a dull moment here either.
No, it delivers,
It
even
still
with the
del-
changes.
Mhm.
And it's super gory. It reminded me a little bit of a movie by Peter Jackson called Dead of Live. We should do a podcast on Peter Jackson films. And there's a scene in Dead Alive where like there's a bunch of zombies and the guy kills them. Again, it's very humorous, but the guy kills them with like a lawnmower or something like that.
Well, I put here what the fuck is this Killer Bride Chainsaw
Right,
Massacre? Do you
right.
remember that scene?
It's amazing. Yeah. It's like this. So this bride who's like, oh my God, they've ruined my wedding day. She becomes this
She
kick-ass.
rips
Rips off part of her dress.
Yep, just half, which I think is bad.
Yeah, so she could run,
Right.
right? She can't run in a long dress. And then she takes this chainsaw and starts killing this. She's like, "Oh no, you fucking people, you're not fucking with me no
There
more."
was a video game in the 2011 era, 2012 area called Lollipop Chainsaw. Very niche fan favorite game because all it was this like K-pop, like beautiful like teenage girl, very like la 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 la, like Sailor Moon-esque, you know, with a chainsaw running around just slicing zombies up, and that's all I was feeling this entire time was Lollipop
That's funny.
Chainsaw.
I was gonna say I don't play games, but that sounds like a game that's right up my alley.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
nonstop action.
Now I wrote down here, what does number 3 have in common with 1 and 2? And what I wrote down is that things don't end well for anybody.
Anybody, there's just
I mean,
no
there's
happy
just-
ending.
There's no happy ending in 1, 2, or 3.
Mm-mm.
It's all very
It's
downbeat
all
and
dark, and I
Yeah.
like that because not
Oh,
every
I'm not-
film has to have a resolution.
I'm not
It's
complaining.
It's amazing.
yeah. The ending to this one is really fucked up.
Yes.
Yeah.
But let's leave them on a suspense for that one.
No, I'm not telling them what happens.
No, not
No,
this
you have to
one.
watch it.
Okay. Want to move on to
Number
4?
4.
Ugh, I don't know. At this point, I was just
You were
turned
done?
off. I was done
Yeah.
at this point, just because I was upset at the first. At 3 was different.
Mm-hmm.
4 kind of fell in the same line for me.
Right.
What
And
did
this
you feel
one's
about 4?
yeah, there is franchise fatigue that sets in, as we call it. So yeah, by the time this came out,
It was later on, right? It was like 20.
I think a couple of years.
14, I think. Yeah. So that's a 7-year gap in these films.
Right, but there was 2 in the middle.
Right.
Right. But I think and number 4 too is totally different. It takes place on a ship of all places, and the premise is that they are taking the infected out of Spain and kind of quarantining them on a ship of all places,
right,
to study them.
Right.
And there's like scientists studying like, what is this? I mean, the viewer knows it's demonic possession, but it's also like an infection.
There was never really mention of demonic possession in 3. There was no
No,
mention of that
there
in
was none.
3, which is interesting.
And I read about the timelines,
Mhm.
and I read, I don't know how true this is, but number 3 takes place kind of like concurrently with 1 and 2.
I believe that at the same time.
Yeah.
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 I could see that.
Yeah.
Because,
or
like-
roughly around the same time.
Because they mentioned the dog biting, so it must
Exactly.
happen like right.
And that's what
oh
I
my
was
God,
like,
I
yeah.
bit, I gotta go to a wedding. Like shit
Right,
happens.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't kind of like a prequel
No,
or a sequel. It was happening at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then with 4, so, I mean, I watched these movies as they were released, right?
Right.
So, and I've recently watched them all to review them, but with 4, like you said, a lot of years had gone by in between movies, right? And I remember reading and being aware that 4 had come out in Spain, right? So all of these movies came out in Spain first, and then they came here. And even though it wasn't very well received, and all the critics were saying, what you said, that it's just, we're done, we're over it, whatever.
Right.
I still want to see it, right? I'm like, I'm not seeing it.
Well, that's yeah.
And this was one of those like video on demand type of things. Like it didn't get as far as I know, I don't think it got a release in theaters in the States. So I watched it on like video on demand or something.
Did they release the first Rex in movie theaters? No.
The first Shrek was very limited
Okay.
release.
Okay.
Yeah, like a couple of theaters in maybe one theater in New York.
Got it. So if you wanted it, you had to seek it out.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
But those were the days where you kind of had to do that still.
Well, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it's
now
easier.
everything's streaming. Now
Right.
everything, so
It's
I
different.
think if you want to see these films, I think Amazon is a good place to find them.
Yep. And a great company. I have the box set from a great company called Shout Factory.
Yeah.
And their horror division is called Scream Factory. So they released the box set of 1 through 4. So a little shout out to Scream Factory for that. So you can also,
And
if you're like
you don't have
me,
to hunt them down individually. They're all right
no,
there
they're all
for
in
you.
one set, right? So if you guys are want to buy a Blu-ray, it's out.
And that's better than I think keeping gigabytes on your computer too. Because those
Right.
start to eat up space.
Right.
So as far as 4 goes, did they ever mention the demonicness?
No, so number 2 introduces demonic possession, right?
Right.
And now number 4 introduces kind of like the scientific.
Right, because they want to get to the bottom of it.
Right. So
They
now
never reference the demonicness. which
no,
is
because they're
funny.
scientists.
Right.
Right. Why would they?
Because I was hoping for more of that.
Yeah.
I was hoping for more of an explanation of like, okay, how, where, why.
Right.
I think that's what I was missing because they introduced us this whole concept of like, I'm a demon who infected all these people.
Right.
So as number 4, I was like expecting a
But
closure to that.
Well, the thing is that they've established. I mean, for me at least, they've established that already. So there's no need to kind of like expand upon it, right? So now they're introducing a different angle. It's like doctors and scientists trying to find the
Cure these
scientific.
people.
Right. But our heroine from 1, 2, and 3, 1 and 2 is now in this one again, 4, because she's one of the people on the ship that's being kind of like,
which is great. I'm glad
right.
I'm glad
She's
still
back.
here.
She's back. The little girl from Law of Desire. So they're kind of like trying to figure out, right? Like, how do we cure this? How did it start? Meanwhile, she has the worm in her still.
Which is disgusting.
Right.
Disgusting.
And it's funny. The pace on this one is much slower.
Yes.
It doesn't have that relentless
Right.
pace.
The other.
Right. It has its moments, but it's much slower. There's a lot more story, right? A lot more dialogue.
Right.
Which is, again, I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was bad, but I can see how, like with 3, the fans would kind of be like a little upset.
That's where I was upset. I
Yeah.
watched it. I thought it was good. I thought it was a fun movie.
Yeah.
But as far as this specific series, I really wish they were all just handheld.
Right.
Because I think it would. Because in the beginning, I thought what was going to happen is it was going to cut from a wedding. I thought it was going to cut like someone ran out of film
Mm.
to the zombie attack. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is gonna be cool, but
Yeah.
it didn't do that.
They didn't do
That's
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in this one too, the interesting thing is like the virus is kind of like evolving in this one, and it works its way into the food supply, and then when people eat, they become infected.
Right.
And it still has some really gory stuff in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of bloody scenes in this one.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I couldn't really pick out a favorite kill. What was your favorite kill in this one?
My favorite kill in that one?
One that stood out to you.
I don't know. I mean, I can't pick one out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I feel like the 1 and 2 had like memorable zombie kills, and like, look, one of my favorite zombie movies is Zombieland, right? And we covered that. And they had zombie kill of the week. So every zombie movie I watch now, I'm like, which is my zombie kill of the week in this movie?
Oh, really? Yeah,
so
I wasn't
was
looking
like,
at it that
one.
way.
Me and my dad always do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is a wonderful series. Definitely worth your time if you're into like infected zombie. It's not really a demonic possession, but it is. Just the way it presents itself is not like your traditional like have to have an exorcism, right? This is like an infected zombie movie, for sure.
Right. It's interesting because is it a virus? Is it demonic possession? What is that worm?
Right.
So they answer
the worm
some
was
questions.
nasty.
Right.
When I saw it on 2, I was literally like, "Oh my god, no!" Ugh.
And then it happens. So there's a lot of different things thrown in there,
Yeah.
right? Some of it was explained, some of it wasn't. I think also the good thing about some of these movies is that they leave some stuff up to the viewer.
Right. And things that do that often have better takeaways, and I think this movie has a lot to take away from it. I think they could expand on it if they wanted to. If tomorrow Rec 5 came out and it was a handheld movie, I'd watch it.
What if it wasn't a handheld movie? Would you watch it?
I probably would, because I did like all 4 of these movies, and I think they're worth your time. If you don't see anything besides the first 2, I wouldn't be mad at you, but all 4 are definitely worth your time.
Yeah, each one 1 and 2 are just great.
Yeah.
Right? And they've actually been named in like lists of like top 100 horror films of all time.
Yeah.
And they have.
And literally worth
Especially
it.
1.
Yeah.
1 has been mentioned in those types of lists.
Right, and for 07, like there wasn't really a lot happening. Like I think I want to say Insidious was 06. Like that was just coming out around then.
Insidious?
Insidious 1, right? That was 06.
Let me check. But what made you think of Insidious?
I'm just thinking of relative popular horror movies at the time.
That was 2010.
2010, right? So
Yeah.
like these big films that like blockbuster horror, didn't even approach the box office yet. For an 07 film, the first Rec was amazing.
It is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like yeah.
And again, we mentioned it already. Like the American remake Quarantine is really, really good.
Definitely watch Quarantine 1
Yeah.
and 2. The second one had a lot of cool zombie kills in Quarantine 2.
I have to check it out. Oh, sorry, people. My phone is going crazy. Sorry about that. I have to check out 2. I can't remember if I saw it or
You
not.
should watch 2. It's very fun.
Yeah. Quarantine, that is.
Quarantine.
Yeah.
Well, all right, everyone.
All right.
Thank you for a wonderful episode.
Go watch Rec.
Go watch Rec.
REC.
Love that.
Yeah.
All right. Have a happy day.
Bye.
Bye.